Brave in! Ando on! Hey guys, KRXV here with another double review. This will be my first double review in a while. And this time I'm reviewing the FangShot set and the ShieldLanSlasher set from Jyuden Sentai Kyoryuger. These are two sets that include the 5 individual weapons of the main Kyoryugers that can combine together into 3 different super weapons. So, the contents of the two sets are as follows. The FangShot set includes Kyoryu Red's and Kyoryu Black's weapons, and the ShieldLanSlasher set includes Kyoryu Blue, Kyoryu Green, and Kyoryu Pink's weapons, plus 1 Judenshi. So, I'll start off by looking at the Judenshi first, and then I'll move on to the weapons. So the included Judenshi is number 13, Kentrospiker. So this is a light blue Judenshi with it's number 13. So we've got symbol right here, the glow in the dark sticker on this side, and then on this side, Kentrospiker. Now this one is kind of interesting because this is a made in China Judenshi rather than made in Thailand, meaning this one has more in common with the ones that are included with the mecha than with the other roleplay weapons. So flipping into the Brave inside, we have a light blue Kentrosaurus, which was a dinosaur similar to the Stegosaurus, but it had more sharp spike-like spines rather than the broad plates that along the Stegosaurus's back. And as you can see, they are much more narrow and like spikes than with the Stegosaurus. And also of note is that they have these spikes on the shoulders as well, something that the Stegosaurus doesn't have. So, of course, this works with the double revolver, but this works in a similar way to the Dino Chaser Judenshi. So with this one, like with the Dino Chaser Judenshi, it disables the use of the cylinder and overrides any other battery that's in there. So it'll just change the sound made when you pull the trigger. And this is normally the part where I would show it off with Kyoryugen, but similarly to Pteraiden-oh, I technically don't need to show this off with Kyoryugen. So setting that aside, I'll look at the individual sets first, and then I'll look at how they combine together to make a super weapon. So starting off, we have Kyoryu Red's weapon, the Gabutira Fang. So with each of these weapons, they're designed after the Kyoryuger's Judenshi emblems. So just for an example, I have here the Gabutira Judenshi. As you can see, the shape of the Gabutira Fang matches up with the emblem here on the Judenshi. It even has marks to mimic the outline and the details that are on it, even to the point of mimicking the shape of the teeth, although not perfectly. So this one is pretty much the entire outer part is red plastic with a little bit of silver, while the inner part is black plastic. So the same pattern continues on to the backside, and you even have some nice molding detail on top, including this little silver part. And they even had a little bit of detail for the raised eyebrows. Now, what kind of sticks out is that you have this empty part here in the front. Now, in the show, there's actually a silver plate that covers up the front part when it's not combined with anything. And I do wish that Bandai would have included a detachable part to just snap onto here so that, you just don't have this whole gap in the front. Because it looks fine when you're looking at it from either of the sides, it just honestly does look a little bit strange looking at it from the front. So each one of the 3 out of 5 of these weapons have a gimmick of some sort. Well, the last 2 don't really. So the gimmick for the Gabutira Fang is that, like how Gabutira has a big mouth that chomps down on enemies with, you can see your hand in here to puppet it for a chomping action. Just like so. It only goes up this far, but it's actually a pretty fun gimmick. It makes a nice snapping sound. And this also works kind of like a glove to punch with, so you can do punches too. Now in the box, the Gabutira Fang is packaged in 2 pieces. They just snap together like so. And of course this is, being Bandai, no, it's a system that's designed so that if you accidentally snap the 2 apart, you can just as easily snap them back together. Just like so. So next is Kyoryu Black's weapon, the FangShot. Since Parasagan's tail can become a gun, the FangShot is something of a laser rifle. So as you can see the 2 twin barrels here in the front, and the trigger down here, which has a little bit of a nice detail for the grip. Up top you have Parasagan's Jyuden symbol, and notably, just like with the Jyuden, the actual color for it is gray rather than black, just so that it doesn't match up, just so that the color for the inner part doesn't match, isn't the same color as the outline. You also have this part here that extends out back, which doesn't really serve any purpose while it's on its own, and is more for use when it's combined with the other weapons. You have this trigger back here, which doesn't really do anything, well, isn't used while it's in this mode. And the FangShot is kind of the core of the whole set, because this is the one that has the electronic sounds. So the on and off switch is right down here. Just switch it on and you'll get the same sound as when you turn on the Gabu revolver. So pressing the trigger standardly, just normally pressing the trigger, will give you this sound. And one thing to note about the FangShot is that you want to be careful when displaying it. Because of note is that you have these 2 fins on the side, which are rubbery plastic, and if you lay it down on its side, it kind of causes this one to bend, or whichever one you have it leaning on. And as I've said in past reviews, with this kind of rubbery plastic, if it's left in this certain position for too long, it'll kind of hold that position. And you really don't want that to happen with this, because as this is a long weapon, this has a lot of screw holes, so it'd really be a hassle to try to take this thing apart, just to take off one or both of these in order to kind of mold them back to their original shape, using boiling water and then freezing them quickly. So you can combine the Gabutira Fang and the FangShot into the FangShot by a very simple process. Just take the Gabutira Fang and slide it along this part of the FangShot until it locks in place right here. And so there you have the FangShot. So while it's combined together, Well, you don't have to do it, but it certainly seems intended for this combination. You can press and hold the trigger, and you'll get a special attack. You'll get a special attack sound like so. And like I said, you can also do that when they're not combined together. And also, as I just showed, you have this release button for detaching the Gabatiera Fang. So, that is the FangShot set in a nutshell, and now moving on to the contents of the ShieldLanSlasher set. So first up is Kiryu Blue's weapon, the Sego Shield. So once again, molded after his Jyuden symbol. And when you take a look, you can definitely see that they modeled the symbol for Kentrospiker after the one for Stegochi, as they are very similar with the exception of this spike here representing the shoulder spike. So you got the handle back here, and these three fins folded in. So the gimmick for this one is that using any Jyuden, just put it into the slot here, and it'll cause the fins or the spikes to spread out like so. And me personally, I prefer to put this in and then take it out, as this is intended for use for combining all 5 of them together. Alternatively, you can just take a finger and put in and then just push down the button like so. And of course, any Jyuden will work because they're universal they'll have this universal design to them. And you know, you can kind of just do little jabs and bashes with it. Next up is Kiryu Green's weapon, the Zakutor-Slasher. So this one's a kind of a strange weapon, as it has these 3 blades up top. And it would kind of make sense for this to be a kind of gripping claw weapon. But rather, this is an underarm blade with a vertical handle. And it's not a weapon that I've ever seen in any kind of media or real life before. So I don't really know what you would call this. And yeah, this one is just for roleplay with kind of slashing it around. Although it isn't much good, as it is really small. As a pattern you'll notice is that as they progress, they get gradually smaller and smaller, and that's because of the design of when they're all combined together. And so finally is the Dryselance, Kiryu Pink's weapon. The Kiryu Pink's weapon, the Dryselance. And that name it's something that doesn't really work so well in English, as it's the combination of Drysera and Lance. As you know, it goes how with there's no difference between L and R in Japanese, so you know, Drysera is Dori Kera and Lance is Rantsu, so you get Dori Kerantsu or Dryselance. And so, being the last of 5, this one is the smallest, and boy is it small. And see, here's the palm of my hand, and here's the weapon itself. It's that small. And the handle is especially small, as you only really hold it with 1 finger. And even for little kids, they could probably only fit 2 fingers in the handle. This also has nothing to compensate for the size, as this has no gimmick. Well, you have the Drysera Jyuden emblem here, as well as this drill here with the spiraling pang and spikes on the side. There's nothing you can do with it, as the drill is hauled out on the back, and so you can't rotate it, which would have been nice at least. Again, it wouldn't have helped too much with just how small this is. So to combine these three together, first what you do is prepare the ShieldLanSlasher by folding out these fins and then folding this blade down here. Then combine the Seo Shield and ShieldLanSlasher by sliding them together like so. And then attach the dry Cellants to this port here. And there you have the ShieldLanSlasher. It's still fairly small, but at least it makes up, at least it has a decent size because you're combining these three weapons together. Although, because of the size of this handle and how this one is now slotted into here, it's a little bit, there isn't really any specific place to grip it. So you can jab with it and slash with it. Yeah, these three, at least you have the combined feature, although it is a shame that the ShieldLanSlasher and dry Cellants just don't have any gimmicks to them. So to separate them, hold this button to detach the dry Cellants, and hold this button to detach the ShieldLanSlasher. So I'm actually going to keep it like this because now I'm going to combine the 5 together. So there are a few ways to do this, as it's pretty non-linear how you combine them. So the typical way is to form the FangShot and ShieldLanSlasher and then combine the two together. But I'm going to do it in a way that kind of mimics how it's done on the show. So first attach the ShieldLanSlasher to the dry Cellants, then the Seo Shield to the ShieldLanSlasher, and the FangShot to, then take the Jyuden and insert it into the slot, then take the FangShot and attach it to the Seo Shield, but not fully, to the point where it's almost attached, but not fully. Then take the Gabutira Fang and attach it to the FangShot. And then by clicking them together like so, you get the confirmation sound that they're combined into the Kentrospiker. And so, like I said, alternatively, you can just take these two and then combine them together like so. And one thing important is that the Jyuden is actually crucial to the combination, as if I take it out and then combine them, nothing happens. And that's because the top of the Jyuden back here actually hits a button down there that changes the sounds. So now altogether we have the Kentrospiker, which is this long broadsword with all these spikes on the sides. And ignore that, as that was something accidental. So you have this broadsword with all these spikes on the side. Hence why it's the Kentrospiker. Of course, this isn't the same Kentrospiker as the one in the Jyuden, as that is a Jyuden for one of the Guardians, which were Let's or Judenryu. The deal with this is that the power of the Kentrospiker Jyuden is what allows these 5 to combine together. So it kind of gets that namesake. It just gets the namesake from the Jyuden it's using. And so you have all of these spikes along the side. So while it's like this, there are a couple of sounds you can make. The first is pressing the trigger normally. You get this large swinging sound. This is the same sound you get out of when you put it in the Gub revolver, and it's the sound you'll get if you put it in Jyuden. You can also press and hold the trigger for the Kentrospiker Jyuden Brave finish, just like so. So the Kentrospiker's sound effect is Spapan. And so that's the sound effect for doing something quickly, or doing something fast. And while that's a little bit of a weird sound effect, the reason why it's that sound effect is because this isn't actually used like a typical sword would be. Rather, the interesting thing about this is that this is used more like a javelin, as the way the Kentrospiker Jyuden Brave finish works is that Kyoryu black, blue, green, and pink toss Kyoryu red into the air, who then throws this at the enemy like a javelin. And that's actually a pretty creative use of a sword. And it does actually look pretty cool in action. Although, additionally, this basically is only ever combined together for that finisher attack. To date, it hasn't ever been used just swung around like a sword. And it actually kind of makes sense because the prop for the Kentrospiker in the show is actually very large, so it would be very unwieldy to swing around, especially with how you have all these handles on the back. That being said, it's actually a pretty cool idea to have them line up like so, from largest to smallest, to form up the sword. And the Jyuden Brave finish sound is a sound that you can only get from the Kentrospiker combination. The Kentrospiker actually has a good amount of heft to it, and lengthwise it's a little bit longer than the Gaburu cannon. Now, if you have these two, I would suggest that the Kentrospiker is the way you display it. Now, because of what I mentioned with the side fins. And the way you want to do it is that despite how big this is, this actually has a balancing point, that being the FangShot's handle. As you can see, you can have it balanced like this, and it won't fall over, even with the ShieldLanSlasher's handle off the ground. An alternative would be to find some kind of way to create a strong kind of harness or some kind of hook to have it kind of attached to a wall so that it's hanging horizontally, like so. That way these aren't touching anything, and that way aren't being bent. And when you detach them, you get, and also when you take them apart, you get this sound. And like with how this trigger was inactive while it's just in the FangShot or FangShot mode, when it's combined to the Kentrospiker, this trigger doesn't work. And so, no, there are good things I can say about this and then bad things. The good things I can say is that, at least with the first three weapons, the gimmicks are nice and the size is okay. With the last two, not so much, and getting to the bad parts, actually continuing with the good parts, because I want to kind of save the negatives for last. The other good parts is that it's actually cool how having Jyuden in here is integral to the Kentrospiker combination. And the sounds you get for it are nice, as well as it definitely has a nice size, and like I said, it has a little bit of heft to it that kind of adds to the feel of it. The negative side is basically how these were sold. As I explained in the beginning, this is the contents of 2 sets. Now the thing about it is that there is honestly no point to buying the 2 sets separately, because you get all the electronics from the FangShot set, and you get the Jyuden from the ShieldLanSlasher set. The other thing is that these 2 aren't worth it on their own, because honestly, for being sold as a set, as 2 different sets, they're shrunk down a little bit too much. What would have been nice is that because they're sold together, because they're sold separately as 2 different sets, it would have been nice if they would have downsized them less because they're separately, and that means that they could afford to pack a little bit more into the boxes. It would have been more logical with this size and this scale to just sell all 5 together as a Kentrospiker set. And so, with that being said, it's a little bit tough to recommend these, and the only way I can recommend them is if you buy them together, because, as I just explained, there is basically no reason to get them individually, because the ShieldLanSlasher set certainly doesn't work on its own, because there are no electronics to the ShieldLanSlasher, and as a combined weapon, it's not that special. The FangShot has electronics, and while you technically can activate the Kentrospiker stance by pressing the button, you're missing out on the Kentrospiker Jyuden for your other toys. So what I would say is, if you can find these 2 at a good deal with fairly low shipping, and at a deal that's affordable, then I would say go for it. But if it seems like these 2 sets aren't worth it, and if you feel like getting these 2 sets is too much, too expensive, and I would suggest just skipping on this and waiting for the Kentrospiker Jyuden to come out on its own. Although in that case, I only suggest recommending the Kentrospiker Jyuden if you have Jyuden, because it's like the Dino Chaser Jyuden in that you only get the special effect sound if you have it. Well, if you have Jyuden, or if you have both sets. Me personally, I got this because I definitely really wanted to get these, because one of the things I like the most about Super Sentai are the individual weapons that can combine together. And this is the first time that the Rangers' individual weapons have combined to a sword since the Hyakujuken from Hyakuju Sentai Gao Ranger. And so that was over 10 years ago. And this also marks only the 2nd time in Super Sentai where the 5 weapons have combined into a sword. So, it's a cool weapon. It just really shouldn't have been sold as 2 different sets. So, like I said, if you can afford it, sure, go ahead and buy the 2 sets. But if you don't think it's worth it, just wait for the Jyuden to come out on its own. So, thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more videos. And for now, this is KRX50, writing off.